This is Ryan Marsteller, and you're listening to the Mostly Hunting Podcast with my buddies Kyle and Nevin.
This is another episode of Mostly Hunting with my daddy and his buddy Nevin, presented by Snow's Indoor Outfitters.
Hey, this is Eric Aiken. Here comes another episode of the Mostly Hunting Podcast with Kyle and Nevin.
Welcome back to another episode of Mostly Hunting with Kyle and Nevin.
We're sitting here at Snow's Indoor Outfitters, ready for another exciting podcast brought to you by Kyle and Nevin. This week, we just wanted to thank everybody for the likes, the comments, the shares, all the suggestions we got. It was pretty overwhelming, actually. It was quite the takeoff.
Yeah.
So we're extremely excited about this, and thank you.
Yeah, it went a lot better than I was expecting, I guess.
Yeah.
But yeah, it can only go up from here.
Yep, and keep it coming with the comments and suggestions, and if anybody has anything that they want on here, you can email us, and that email was
mostlyhuntingpodcast@yahoo.com.
He's got the memory, I don't. So
I did hit record on the video this time.
yeah, now we have a video. So hi everybody
Howdy.
that's going to be watching.
Yep, here we are. This is us. This is the shop. Now you can actually see it.
Yep. Here
Yeah.
it is. Take a look around. Some exciting news from Snows. You got something done today, I
Yeah.
heard.
The website is live. www.snowsindooroutfitters.com. It's pretty lengthy.
That's pretty exciting news.
It's pretty lengthy
here.
domain, but I mean, what else am I going to
That's
go with?
awesome.
Yeah.
I checked it out today, by the way. That's
Yeah?
a heck of a setup. That's
Yeah,
a
thank you.
very nice website.
I started out on my own, and I have no idea how to build a website. So I
Yeah,
got
I
a
don't
call.
think it's like a common knowledge.
No,
thing.
there's a lot of AI involved, but it looked like it was made at Dollar General. So I got a call from this company that works through the ATA, and they work with the ATA and archery shops and everything. So they built it for me.
Oh, that's awesome.
Yeah. So it's pretty minimal right now. Like the store, the shop section of it is just some pictures and stuff that I sent them, some arrows I built, a couple bows and stuff, and it's just call in if you have questions about pricing. I do ship. If anybody's watching from not around Saegertown, I can ship.
Yeah.
I'm shipping a bow to Florida tomorrow, actually.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yep.
Yep. I shipped one to Park City, Utah, a month or two ago
No
for another
kidding.
friend.
Awesome.
Yep. Yeah. So, yeah, we're able to do shipping anywhere you need it.
That's great.
So,
I'm
yeah, the
sure that's
website's
gonna be a
good.
big help.
Yep. Not too many emails.
No, we had one from an old buddy of mine
Yep.
that I haven't seen in a long time, and
Yeah, that was pretty cool.
yeah, he was
Yeah.
excited. I was excited to hear from him. It's been a while.
Yeah. So yeah, don't forget to send us some emails. Get some more stuff to talk about, whatever you want us to talk about. And like we said, it's mostly hunting.
Yeah.
We'll talk about anything.
We're here. And I think this week we're probably going to dip a little bit into turkey hunting since turkey season just got over with here not too long
Yep.
ago. I think we'll talk about maybe this year's hunt, how we got one this year, and then maybe dive into our favorite hunt.
Yeah,
ever.
favorite / biggest, whatever.
Yeah. We'll go into the biggest tom or whatever that we've got, and I think it's going to be a pretty. I think we got some pretty good stories
Yeah.
here.
So, turkey season is by far my favorite.
I do love a good turkey season.
I love archery season. I own an archery shop, but I freaking love turkey season.
There's nothing like it.
No,
Hearing
you
them
can't beat
gobble
it.
in the morning. It's just,
Nope.
Oh,
Hearing the woods wake up.
oh, yeah.
Get in there an
The
hour
birds
before
start
light.
chirping, and then all of a
Yeah.
sudden, just silence just breaks with a
Yeah.
gobble, and you're like, it kind of sends a shiver down your
Yeah,
spine.
it's the best. Yeah. So yeah, tell us about your story this year.
All right. Well, I had a good season. It was nice and short.
Yeah.
I like it that way. I don't spend too much time stressing over.
Mm-hmm.
If I don't get one for like a while, I start getting a little
Yeah.
stressed out because I've been fortunate enough to have harvested a turkey every year since I was 12. Some years with the double tag, I've gotten 2, but in the past few years, I've kind of seen like a decline in the gobblers where I hunt. So I quit getting the second tag. Doesn't mean it's wrong or right or indifferent, but that's just what I choose to do.
Yeah.
So I had a short season this year. It was pretty nice. I went out the first day. Of course, it was pouring down rain. I was
It was a beautiful
soaked
morning.
and miserable.
Yeah.
So I got out there, and I was expecting to see other people in the spot that I was at, but I didn't, probably because of the weather.
Mm-hmm.
But I somehow managed to. I'm a little lax when it comes to preseason scouting. I didn't really spend a whole lot of time getting into it.
No, I always say I use my husband points during season.
Yes.
I don't do much scouting.
Yeah, I don't get out much
yeah.
beforehand. I might, drive down the dirt road or something and see if there's one out in the field. But as far as that goes, that's about it. So I happened to get in there, and I stumbled into him basically, and I had to, get in position. It was kind of late. Starting to get a little bit too light to get too close to him, but it was a good morning actually. They were hammering off a limb, and they flew down, and they were down in front of me for a while, and I'd call a little bit, but they had a couple hens with them, and I ended up calling the hens right up to me. I could see them, and the gobblers, they were down there strutting around, and they had come up at one point, and they were so close, but I had picked a terrible spot to sit. I couldn't see that far.
Yeah.
Every time they'd gobble, I could hear their feathers shake.
Really?
It's like, I was looking through the brush trying to get an eye on one, and I could not see them. And finally, they worked away from me, and I kind of thought I knew where they were headed, so I made a big loop, and I circled up and around, and I got in the pines up there where I thought that they were going to go to, and I was right. I had sat down, and I called once, and they gobbled, and they were just right on the other side of the road.
Nice.
And I was probably like 60, 70 yards from the road, and I ended up calling them into those woods in the first 3, and I knew there was one over there, and he had a little bit longer beard than the other 3 that he was with, and so I was kind of waiting on him. The other ones, they come up in front of me about 40 yards, and I honestly should have just shot one of them and called it a day, but but I was waiting on that bigger one, and he stayed out, and I could see him standing in the middle of the road.
Really?
He was just standing there looking around. And eventually he came into the woods, and he was coming down, and I had this big tree in front of me, and I'm like, all right, as soon as he gets on the other side of that tree, I'm shooting him. Well, he went behind the tree and then never came back out the other side.
Really?
Yeah. I was looking for him, and I turned and I looked around the tree like this, and he's standing out in the middle of the road again. I'm like, all right, cool. Well, then the other ones had just kind of walked off. They all went across the road again. I'm like, man, that's kind of, kind of kicking. So I got up and kind of moseyed around, and I'd get them to answer me every once in a while, but they had the hens with them, and they would eventually they just quit answering me. And it started pouring down rain, and I decided to walk around some more. I did find a small shed antler that day though, so that was kind of neat.
Nice.
And so that was pretty much my first day, and then I kept seeing them out there. We sneak over there at work, I'm on maintenance, so I was a good drive around over there a little bit going to a job, and I kept seeing them out in the fields. And one morning there's a bunch of pen dog guys out there, and they're all eyeballing them, and they were watching them out there. They were all strutting and stuff. I'm like, yeah, I probably ought to get in there and try and get one before somebody else does.
Mm-hmm.
So one morning before work, I got up early, and I went right back to the spot where they were roosted before, and they were there. And so I snuck down in there, and I sat down, and he gobbled, and he's probably like 80 yards from me. And once again I picked a terrible spot to sit down, but it was dark, so I didn't really know what I was looking into here. But so I had to move up. So I moved up quite a ways, probably like 40 yards, and he gobbled a couple times as I was sneaking up through there. And I mean, I picked a tree, and I could see a good ways then, and I sat down as soon as my butt hit that pad, this hen started yelping. She was right above me.
Really?
And I'm like, oh, man. I got so lucky that I didn't spook her.
Yeah.
Well, she's up there yelping, and he's gobbling. And I look, and it was still fairly dark out, but it was light enough. And I watched him fly down, and he went down on the side of the ravine. Well, then the hen flew down. She went clear across the ravine, and I'm like, oh no, he's gonna go right to her, and I'm never gonna see him. So I called a couple times with the mouth call. That's primarily what I use. I have a couple slate calls that I bring with me, but I don't really use anything else.
Yeah.
So I called to him once, and he gobbled, and then I called again, and he gobbled, and he was close. So I just stopped, and I waited, trying to see where he is, and all of a sudden I see his head pop up over the hill, and he was like 30 yards, and I waited for him. He strutting up the hill, and he got to the top of the hill and dropped strut, and he's looking around, and I bam,
Nice.
let him have it. And he was a good bird. He had a 9-inch beard and 1.125 spurs.
That's a real good bird.
He was a good one. I was
Yeah.
happy with him. Wasn't that real long bearded one that I was after, but I was tickled.
It was good
It
enough.
was a good season.
Yeah. Nice. That's awesome.
He tasted pretty good.
What do you do with yours?
Well, sometimes I'll soak them in milk
Mm-hmm.
for overnight or something. Then I just pan fry them or something like that. It's nothing
Yeah.
too.
Last few years, I've chunked the breast up and did like chicken nuggets, turkey nuggets. Yeah.
I've
they're-
done that with a hen in the fall. Just
Yeah.
chunked them up and did that, and they
Mhm.
were very good. I kind of cooked them like I'd cooked steak. Really.
Oh, really?
Yeah, just salt, pepper,
Yeah.
and stuff. And
Yep. Yeah. That's what. Do you mess with the legs anymore?
not so much.
I try almost every year, and it's like, why even keep trying, man?
Yeah.
I've slow cooked them. I've put them in the smoker. The crock pot, and I can't make them edible.
there's just not much you can do with
No.
them, unfortunately. But
Yeah.
I eat what I can, and
Yeah.
then the rest they're just fun to shoot, really.
You ever taken the stones out of the crop? That's all the rage nowadays.
I seen that. I have never done that.
Last couple I killed, I've been meaning to, and then I get into cleaning them. I'm sick of messing with a stinky bird, and I forget about
they
it.
smell terrible when
Oh,
you cut
God.
'em open.
I love hunting them, but cleaning them sucks.
Yeah, it's a whole different animal.
Yeah.
Not like a deer.
No. No.
But yeah, that was my season, and I enjoyed it.
Yeah.
It was a good year
It's a
for
good
me.
season.
so-
2 hunts then.
2 hunts.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Nice.
One was in the pouring down rain, and I was still. I should have had one
Mhm.
at that point, but
Yeah.
I was being picky.
Yep.
That's what I get for trying to be picky.
Yeah, trophy hunting, man.
Doesn't pay off.
Not always. No, that's why I shoot the first legal thing that comes by. Well, shoot at the first legal
Shoot
thing that
at,
comes by.
yeah.
Yeah.
Oh,
Yep. The couple that I
anymore.
have on the wall, it's just their dumb luck that they walked past me before a 3-pointer did. But a legal 3-pointer, I
Yeah,
mean.
as long as it's legal.
Yes, 3 up, man. So yeah, my hunt this year, I kind of talked about Nolan's last week a little bit.
Mhm.
I forget if I said how big his was, did I? Beard was 8 3/4, and the spurs were 1 1/8.
That's a good bird. That's a really good bird.
Yeah, for his first bird, 51 yards with the 20 gauge. And
Wow.
it was dead.
That's a heck of a shot.
Yeah.
Like, good for him. That's,
Yeah, it was-
that's awesome.
It was awesome. It was one of those
Mhm.
things like I don't use decoys or blind or anything.
Mhm.
And he came in right off the roost, and he was starting to do the, like, where's this hen at? You
Yeah.
know? I was like, Nolan, I got one of those reflex sights on that 870. I said, as soon as you get that red dot on his head, shoot. And because he wasn't going to stick around really long. But so yeah, that was Nolan's. Mine, I went out on the first day, and I was stressing about it because we were leaving for vacation on Monday.
Oh yeah.
So we were going to be home to hunt the rest of the season, but I just wanted to get a bird
yeah.
dead so I don't have to stress about it in St. Martin. So, like you said, crappy morning, rainy, storming, and I told Nolan the night before, I said, hey, I'm going out tomorrow, no matter the weather. I said, if it's raining, if you don't want to go, that's fine. He said, no, I want to go. I'm like, all right, whatever.
All right.
So I've never been real caught up in trying to kill a turkey with my bow.
Right.
I feel like a turkey's made to be shot in the face with a shotgun, personally.
Absolutely. Yeah.
But since I bought the shop, my wife and I bought the shop, I figured I'll try with a bow this year. But I took the shotgun too.
just in case.
Yes.
One hung up out there a little ways.
Yeah. So we went right back to almost the same tree as Nolan because there was 3 birds gobbling on the roost when Nolan killed his. and the one he killed was the first one that came in. And in my head, usually the dominant tom isn't the first one to come in.
Right.
In my experience. So I was like, I bet there's a bigger one in there. So we went right back in there, and it was pouring rain. And I'm sitting there on I took a chair because I was going to be trying with the bow. And it was 5 different birds gobbling on a roost. 3 different spots. It was 2, 2, and 1. And they all hit the ground and shut up. And I'm like, oh man, crap. So I called a few times, and I forget how long it was. But finally one gobbled out in the field, probably 200 yards away. And he was answering me, but he wasn't coming any closer. So he was moving out there, but there was a lot of woods in between us, and he had some hens, and I knew he wasn't coming any closer.
Basically locked up out there.
Yeah, so I told Nolan, I said, hey, we're going to have to get up and make a move on this bird. He's like, okay. I said, stay low, and do not step on a stick. I said, watch where your feet are going. I said, we're going to have to be as quiet as we can. So we moved once, got set up next to another tree, called a little more, and he was gobbling back and forth with me the whole time, but still not moving. I said, there's like the field we're in like a point of woods, and I said, we got to get right to the edge of the woods over here. I said, hopefully that'll entice him enough to come over here. So we moved up to the edge. We were about 20 yards inside the woods, and he was hammering again. I had the bow set up, and I finally seen him. He was out like 60 yards or so in this bunch of thorn bushes and stuff, and he was just hammering, and he hung up. I think it was 47 steps. So I wasn't going to try to make that shot with the bow. I maybe could have, but I was like, he was kind of on edge anyway. So I was like behind a tree, and I like set my bow down as slow as I could like this, and I had the gun leaning up against a tree, and I grabbed it and leaned out and shot. And so the funniest part, I wish I would have had a camera. It was freaking hilarious. So I yelled at Nolan. I said, get up there and get on his head. So he runs up, and he's standing on the turkey's head, and I'm walking out there, just kind of moseying out and looking at the ground. Nolan goes, oh gosh. I'm like, what? And I look up, and Nolan's standing there like this, and the turkey's standing there looking at him. He's like, what do I do? I said, run. So he run back behind me, and I had to shoot it again. But oh my God, I wish I could have that picture, that turkey looking up at Nolan, like, hilarious. Oh gosh.
Turkey's
so,
like, please.
Oh my gosh, it was hilarious.
That's awesome.
Yeah, and it had a really weird beard. The mites had eaten almost all of it off.
Mm-hmm.
So it had like 8 strands maybe that were like 6-7 inches long, and the rest of it was maybe an inch. And he had like 7-8 spurs. Not a trophy, but
nice bird.
Yeah.
Regardless,
Yeah.
it's a bird.
He had a full fan. I mean, he was a mature bird,
Yeah.
So yeah.
I've heard a lot of that this year.
I have
People
too.
seeing them like without beards.
Yeah. Luckily, he had enough that I could see poking out past the feather.
Oh yeah.
Yeah. But yeah, it was a pretty exciting hunt with Nolan.
That is cool.
Getting to move on him,
Anything
and
with your kids it's a good
Yeah.
time.
It was a good experience for him too, to know that when they're not coming in, you can make a move and make them think that the hen's not stalking
As
them.
long as you make the right
The
move,
right move, yes.
to
Yeah.
get somewhat in the right general direction.
Yeah.
It's harder than you think. I mean, sometimes you'll make a move and you'll think that there's no way that bird saw me or heard me or anything,
Yeah.
and then they they're done.
Yep.
They just disappear. It makes you wonder.
Yeah.
It's amazing how dumb a bird with a pea-sized brain can make you feel
Yeah.
sometimes.
Yeah. Yeah, they're pretty tough. And I feel like these Pennsylvania birds, this area, are a lot harder to hunt
I
than.
feel like that too.
Yeah,
They see a lot of pressure. I mean,
Yeah.
it's every day they're getting hunted by somebody.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. And I haven't turkey hunted other states, but like watching all the videos and stuff, it's like, man, either they're super good turkey hunters,
Oh, yeah.
and I suck, or
Well,
those
we were out
turkeys
in Kansas last year. There was a pile of turkeys.
Really?
And they'd literally be out in the cornfield eating 30 yards from my tree stand. I'd walk out there, climb up my tree stand, and I'd get all set up, pull my bow up, hang it up, and I'm moving around, and nothing.
Really?
They just feeding around. They don't run. They don't do nothing.
no kidding.
Oh yeah, it was unreal.
That's not happening here.
No,
Uh-uh.
absolutely not. A
Nope.
turkey hears a stick break and they think it's a human. They're gone.
Yeah. Yep. So that was this season. Tell us a story about your biggest turkey,
My biggest-
or just your favorite hunt, whatever.
All right, so I got my biggest turkey. That was actually my first bow
Really?
spring gobbler. Yeah,
Awesome.
I got him with my bow. It was a Matthews Triax.
Ooh, one of my favorite bows.
I did a lot of killing with that bow.
Mm-hmm.
It was a good bow. I kind of miss it. Luckily, I know exactly where it's at, just
Yeah.
in case.
I had one too, and I know exactly where it is too.
But yeah, I had hunted this bird, and he was just one of them ones that I couldn't get to do any. He gobbled to me every once in a while, but he had his pattern like every morning, and he was roosted about 12 foot off the ground above a pond.
Really?
Yeah, it was unreal, and I could see him in the tree, and he'd be up there in full strut, and I'd call to him, and he'd gobble, but I could not get him to come down on my side of the pond.
Yeah.
He'd fly down, and it was this little strip of woods, and he'd go right every time, and it was like 4 days in a row. So finally, I'm like, well, it was a little bit closer to a house than I wanted to be with a shotgun.
Mm-hmm.
You know, I wasn't within, the safety zone of the house or anything like that. She lets me hunt there, and I thought it would be rude if I woke her up at 6 a.m. with a 12 gauge,
Yeah.
kind of
3.5 inch mag.
Yeah.
Yeah.
probably get annoyed by that.
Mm-hmm.
So I'm like, I'd never killed one with my bow before. I hadn't even tried at that point. I'm like, well, I'll give it a shot.
Mm-hmm.
So I showed up there extra early, and I pull up to the spot, and I get out of the Jeep, and I shut the door, and he gobbled, and it was literally 4 o'clock in the morning. It was pitch black outside. I could not believe I shut the door, and he gobbled. I was like, well, he's there.
Yeah.
So I grab my bow and stuff, and I go into the woods, and it's darker than dark in there, and I'm trying to be sneaky. I guess I had a little bit of moonlight, enough to see a little bit, but
Mm-hmm.
so I found a little cluster of trees. There's 3 trees together, so I got behind that, and I got down on my knees, and I held my bow in my hands, and I just sat there and waited. I never called to him or anything.
Really?
And I just sat there, and of course it starts, the morning starts opening up, and birds are chirping and stuff, and he's gobbling, and I was starting to get excited. I'm sitting there shaking, and I watched him fly down, and I was like, oh, here we go. And here he come, right where I thought he was going
Really?
to. And I'm like, all right, so I'm ready. And it couldn't have worked out any better. He had no idea I was there. And there was a tree in front of me, a pretty good sized cherry, and it was like exactly 20 yards in front of me. And he comes strutting up the hill, went right behind that tree. And as soon as he got behind that tree, I drew back,
Yeah.
and he come out the other side of that tree and stopped. It was like it was picture perfect, just
Just like
meant
you
to
drew it
be.
up.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So he stopped, and I shot, and of course it's like there's a beaver dam right there and 2 ponds, and there's geese everywhere. So I shoot, the turkey takes off flying, and geese go everywhere. So it's like mayhem at this point, and I'm like trying to figure out which one's the turkey
Yeah.
and what's watching him. And I completely lost sight of him, and it's all red brush on the other side of that pond, and it's thicker than thick. I mean, you gotta fight your way through it.
Mm-hmm.
And I heard him crash into the red brush, and I had no idea how far, like where
Yeah.
he was. I spent an hour and 45 minutes looking for that turkey. I
Really?
finally found him, thank God.
No kidding.
I ended up looking, and I seen something black laying there, and I started creeping up through the woods, and I was like, is that him? And I looked, and I got closer to it, and it was just a stump. And then I look over to my right, and it was laying like 30 yards away from me.
Really? That's
It's like,
awesome.
there he is, But he was my biggest bird ever. He had a 10.5-inch beard, and one spur was 1.5 inches, and the other one was 1 3/8 inches.
Really?
I busted it off a little bit, but he
Oh,
was
yeah.
just a monster of a bird.
That's a heck
and
of a bird.
I was extremely
Especially with
happy
a bow.
it.
That's awesome.
Yeah, I was freaking excited. I
Yeah.
got him with the bow. It was by far the best hunt ever.
That's awesome.
Besides the one I had with Dustin the one time. That was a crazy hunt.
Yeah. I think is that the one that you guys were showing me videos from?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. He was behind me, and we were trying to get closer to this
Mhm.
one, and like we had him gobbling, so we go in there, and we had to go across the road and into this. It was just a little sliver of woods, and he was in there strutting. Well, we'd call him up, and he wouldn't get any closer than like 70 yards, and then he'd walk off. So I'd army crawl like 40 yards and then stop, and I'd call him back to like, and he just would not give me a shot. I seen him like 4 different times in that little section of woods. Well, then finally he gets out to the end, and I was army crawling up through the woods, and another one fires up, and he was like probably 300 yards away. Dustin was probably like 60 yards behind me, and that gobbler must have ran across the field to get up in there. And
Really?
I had the other one. I started calling to the other one. Dustin's calling to this one. It's running across the field. This one's finally coming back to me, and I have him at like 35 yards. I'm just waiting to get a shot at him.
Yeah.
And next thing I know, this other one gobbles, and he's like right on top of me. Well, here, he walked right past Dustin. He was like, I don't know, 10 yards from Dustin. Dustin's
Really?
sitting there, things walking in front of him, coming up to me. And finally he gobbles, and he's like right here. The other one's right here, and I'm like, oh God, which one do I shoot?
Yeah.
You know, and then this one, he was coming quick, and I heard him spitting, and he was in the brush next to me. So I ended up, I turned my body, and I put my gun, I shot it left-handed.
Right.
And it was like through this thorn bush in front of me. He was like 10 yards.
Really?
And I blasted him through that thorn bush, and he ended up taking off running. I had to chase him down again. But that was a really cool hunt. I mean,
Yeah, that's
Just
awesome.
listen to them 2 birds. It was awesome. Him come running in through over 300 yards. It was insane.
Yeah, that's cool.
It doesn't happen like that very often.
No.
It was exciting.
Yeah, it's awesome. I guess one of my favorites was my second biggest bird. I think it was 3 years ago. And I forget if I didn't have to work that day or what. But I went out in the morning. It was kind of mid-morning, and went up on top of this hill into the woods, and I sat down. I knew there was a bird in there somewhere. And so I called, and he gobbled to me. And this was after daylight. He gobbled and gobbled and gobbled. And he'd come closer, then back away, then come closer and back away. So he was like down a hill from me, and there was a 4-wheeler path that went up kind of around the other side of the hill. And so I backed up, and I got out, and so the 4-wheeler path's kind of like over the top of the hill, like you couldn't see me. So I just walked, I don't know, maybe 150 yards or whatever, and went back into the woods a little ways, and there was this tree that fell down. There was a limb just perfect. I could sit on it, and then there was another limb in front of me that I could rest my gun on. So I got all set up on that, and I had a mouth call. I called like 2 or 3 yelps, and he gobbled, and it was like right now he was coming up over the hill. So I shot, and he took off running. I was using a Mossberg 835 at the time, and I had to shoot him 3 times. He was like probably 40 yards, and I just rolled him the first one, shot him again as he's running, and he like rolls up, and he's like right next to a stump, and I got up a little closer and shot him again. But he had a real big thick beard. It was like probably 9.5, so it wasn't super long, but real nice,
Real big.
sharp hooks on him.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah. But it was just a super fun, another one that I just outsmarted him.
Yep.
Those are the best hunts when
Those are my
afterward you're like,
favorites.
I outsmarted
Yeah,
that thing.
I did a good job.
Yeah.
You
Yep.
kind of pat yourself on the back. when
Yeah.
you get done.
It doesn't happen very often, but sometimes I can pat myself on the back a little bit.
Yeah.
Yeah. So you
Very
mentioned you
good.
mostly use a mouth call.
Mostly, yeah.
Yeah.
I got a few different ones. I have 3 or 4 of those killer calls.
Okay.
I think they're made around here actually,
Mhm.
but Kate's uncle got one for me for Christmas because I think he talked to the guy or something. But yeah, they've been great calls. I've got a couple like Primos ones. Oh, I can't think of the other. I think that's it as far as mouth calls go. I don't have a box call to speak of.
Yeah.
I have a couple of slate calls. One's a glass, so that one works pretty decent if it's raining and it gets wet. It's
Yeah.
still
You have a
you
carbon
rough it
striker
up.
you use
Yeah,
on it?
Yes.
Yeah.
Yeah,
Yep.
I got a carbon one and a wooden one that I use on the slate call. I think they're
Mhm.
like the Primo's Jackpot series.
yeah, I
or
got a Jackpot.
something like
Yeah.
that. Back in the day.
Yep.
I've
Alex
had
got
them
me.
forever.
Yeah, she got me one of those for Easter when we were in college. That was 09, I
Yeah.
guess, 09,
Yeah.
010 something. But yeah, I don't even carry box call anymore. We spoke last week about how I carry way too much crap.
Mhm.
And 2 years ago, my brother Doug switched to using a backpack and a chest pack, and I made fun of him for 3, 4, 5 years about not wearing a turkey vest. I'm like, wear a turkey vest. That's what they're designed for.
Yeah, it's
turkey season. Wear a turkey
you wear a
vest.
turkey vest.
Well, then I tried the chest pack, and it turns out that they're
You like
pretty
it,
freaking
you
awesome.
like a chest pack.
Yes. Yeah, so I used the Kafaru Steelhead for 2 years, and then this year I got the Blocker. Oh, what's the name of that? It's right back here. It's awesome.
Yeah, you've sold a couple in here, haven't you?
Yeah. Actually, I sent one to Georgia, and I sent one to Kansas. Yeah, it's just this.
Oh yeah,
What the heck's it called?
that thing's pretty fancy.
Yeah, it's awesome. It's got 2 little spots
for the
here for your
slates.
slate and glass calls. Right here's Strutting Essentials, custom.
Oh, that's cool.
Yeah. Yeah,
I like
so
that.
Jeremy Steinkamp, who made my calls for
For
the
the
shop
shop.
here, he killed a bird with this, posted it on his Facebook, and I was like, dude, I got to have that call.
Yeah, that's
like-
really nice
He's like,
looking.
all right, I'll sell it to you. And I got a Woodhaven. But yeah, it's just got like, a few extra call shells. It's just perfect. But
Now,
yeah,
what do you
so
sit on? You just take a little.
I have one of those like a camping pad. It folds up like the accordion style.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, and I wrap a hair tie around it with a magnet, those AAE mag clips, and just
Oh yeah,
it clips up behind my back, and I pull it off. It works great.
that's pretty nice.
Yeah, and I don't even carry a box call anymore. I used to use that for like locating.
Mm-hmm.
Then I started using like a crystal / glass slate call, and sorry, guy, I don't call them a pot call.
No, I've never.
no,
never
it's a
said
slate
that-
call. It's a
that-
glass slate call or slate call.
Yeah, it's slate call.
So anyway, those get super loud. So that's what I started using for like my locating calls, and I like how you can, like, when they're gobbling on the roost, nice soft
Oh
purrs.
yeah. That's about what I use slate calls for.
Yep.
Is just the little limb yelps and
Yeah.
the soft stuff.
I do love the old diaphragm though when things are getting tight.
Yep.
But I'm not a
It's
pro.
just easy. Oh, I'm far
I'm-
from a pro.
No, I'm just good enough to get myself in
if
trouble.
somebody heard me walking through the woods calling, they'd probably be like, "Wow, that hen sounds like crap."
Yeah.
'Cause-
Well, when you hear a hen in the woods, they
Oh,
sound
yeah.
like crap.
yeah, you're like, "That's got to be a guy."
Yeah.
And then the hen comes walking up to you,
Mhm.
whap whap whap. And you're like, "Man."
Yeah, that gobbler Nolan killed right before he came out. The hen hit the ground, and she was yelping for 5 minutes straight, like just nonstop. I was like, "That's got to be a hunter." Well, no, sure enough, she comes up over the
An
edge. I'm like,
actual hen.
"Yeah, sounded like crap too." 5 minutes just yelp, 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 yelp.
Mm-hmm. Just loud as can be and just messy. It just
And we try to
sounds
sound all
messy.
pretty and
Yeah.
perfect, and I mean, I
I guess
don't.
it really doesn't matter. you
No,
know?
it doesn't.
No, you try to sound as best you can, but
Yeah.
my skill level is probably
No, and I
far
don't
from
practice
good.
enough. When I was on water heaters at the REA, I practiced quite a bit, driving around
Driving
the truck
around.
and stuff. Yeah, but no, I can't do the purring and all that
No,
fancy stuff.
no. I can't remember the last time I purred at a turkey.
Yeah,
I just don't.
no, I cut decent on a mouth call. and
Yeah, I
yelp,
can
and
do the
that's it.
cuts and let the fly down cackle and like just your basic yelps and it seems to really work for me. I've been fairly successful, I would say, at turkey hunting. So
What do you shoot them with?
the old trusty Mossberg 835.
835. Yep.
Yep, that I think I've been using that since I was 12. I guess I gotta give my dad kind of a shout out here. He's the one that really got me into turkey hunting.
Nice.
He was all about turkey hunting back in the day. He still gets out every once in a while, but not like he used to.
Crap.
Oh. Whoops. Had a little music malfunction.
This was the template that I set for last week's. Evidently, our podcast was over at this time last week.
Oh yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. Okay. Well. All right. Well. So
We're gonna go a little longer this week.
yeah, might as well. We're
Yeah.
into it. And I think we could probably get a 45 to an
Yeah.
hour out of this. But yeah, so my dad, he doesn't hunt like he used to, but he still makes it out every once in a while. He'll take my nephew out, Hunter. They go out and they tried to get one this year, and they had one really cool hunt and then one not so cool hunt. But yeah, he was the primary reason I got into turkey hunting, and he, I remember he's like, "You want to use a 12 gauge?" I said, "Yeah, I'll use a 12 gauge. You know, I'm 12. Yeah, I'll use a 12 gauge." He's like, "Well, you're gonna shoot 3.5-inch mag." I said, "Okay, you know," and I'll try anything once, you know.
Yeah.
But he's like, so I get set up on this picnic table, and I had an 835, and it's not the one I use now, but it was my original one, and I get all set up on this picnic table. And he goes, "It's gonna kick a little bit, you know, not too bad. It probably won't be any more than your 20 gauge." I'm
Yeah.
like, "Oh yeah, all right." You know, I get all laced up there, boom, and it about took me off that picnic table. And I looked at him. I said, "You effing lied to me." And he's laughing. But ever since then, I've been using an 835 with 3.5-inch mags. I killed my first turkey with it, and I've killed just about every one since.
And they still kick just as hard, don't they?
Yes, they do.
Yeah.
Actually, when I shot mine this year, that thing belted me right in the cheek.
Did it
I
really?
felt like I got punched in the face.
Yeah.
It was like, you know, a couple hours later, I smiled or something, and I was like, "Ow, what in the world?"
Yep. I was an 835 guy for a long time, so I started with a 870. I'll get to that gun in a second. Then I bought a Beretta 391 I was big into skeet shooting and stuff when I was little. So I sold a steer at the fair, and I bought myself, Dad and Grandpa and my cousin Blake and I went down to Grice's, and I bought this brand new Beretta 391 Eureka.
Fancy.
Yeah, I love that gun. So I turkey hunted with that for a few years, and then I bought 835, the old school camo. That's like my favorite camo ever. The old Mossberg. It's so cool.
Just looks like it's spray painted on there.
Yep. So killed quite a few turkeys with that, and then last year I finally bit the bullet and bought into the 20 gauge thing.
Oh yeah.
Yep. So I bought a Stoeger.
That's
auto loader.
It's all the rage now. Is those smaller shotguns.
Yep.
The 410s, the 20 gauges.
I haven't gone to the 410 yet. I've
heard great things.
I know. I just can't make myself do it yet, and I can't do a single shot.
No, I wouldn't be able to do 90%
of the time you only have to shoot one. Even though I just told 2 stories about having to shoot more than once. But anyway, most of the time you only have to shoot once. I just can't.
There's been way more than one occasion where I've had to shoot more than one time.
Yep. So last year I bought that Stoeger, and this year my mom gave me the 878. Me and my brothers all started hunting with was her gun, so she gave me that for me and Nolan to use this year. So it's pretty sweet. I put a Jeb's Headhunter choke in it, and I'm shooting Windy Hill Precision. I had him load up some custom shells last year for Nolan.
Oh, nice.
2 3/4 inch, 7.5 and 9
Are
shot
they like
TSS.
Tungsten?
Yeah, the TSS.
Yeah.
Dude, insane. Like I said, 51 yards and 47 yards this year.
That's very impressive.
Yeah. And mine still had quite a bit of life left in it, but Nolan's was
deader than dead.
Yeah. But yeah, that thing, it's pretty awesome. I bought off Etsy for like $5. They had these mini brands. So I bought an N and a K. So I'm gonna brand the stock for every bird me and Nolan kill with it.
That'll be a cool little tradition.
Yeah, it's kind of neat, you know.
Nice to do stuff like that.
Yeah.
I wish I would have done more with everything that I had. You know, all the turkey I shot. Dustin, our buddy Dustin. I'm sure he'll be on here at some point.
Yeah.
But
if we can get him to stay up this late.
Yeah. So he takes the shell that he shot the bird with and glues the beard into there, and then he's got the legs or the spurs. I think he just takes the spurs and he's got it all together, and he's done it with every turkey he's ever shot.
Cool.
It's like a really cool setup. And I wish I would have done something like that. Most of them I can't even.
I know. I've lost so many of my turkey beards. I still have my first turkey. It was about a 2.5-inch Jake, and I've had quite a few of those. I've killed a lot of Jakes.
I've killed quite a few.
Yeah.
I'm not afraid to whack a Jake.
Oh no.
I'm not too proud to say,
Nope.
I tagged out on a Jake this year.
If it's the first morning at 6:59, 5 minutes after shooting light, I'll dump a Jake. But
nothing wrong with that.
Nope. No. So yeah, that was our turkey hunting stories and setups and.
Yeah, my 835. I got a pattern master.
Oh yeah,
choke in there. That's the Black Cloud, I think, or something like that. I can't remember.
Yeah, that sounds right. Yeah.
They're turkey choke. It works good. And I just use the Longbeard XR because
Oh yeah.
I can't afford that tungsten stuff. Holy
It's
cow.
pretty spendy. It is. They're proud of it. Yeah. But, well,
Yeah, so we should have some pretty exciting things here in the
Yeah.
future.
we have one really big, exciting thing
Yeah,
that we
one's-
can't say yet.
No, where it's a it's a special guest.
Yes, a
And
very, very special guest.
and we're super excited about it, and we
Yes.
hope that you guys tune in, and
You're not going to want to miss that one because
No.
it's going to be pretty awesome.
It's definitely going to be great.
We both grew up watching this guy, kind of idolized him as kids.
Yes.
And I'm sure quite a few of you have as well. But yeah, when we post that one, you're definitely going to want to be on for
Yeah,
that.
it's gonna be great.
Pretty cool.
We're pumped.
Yeah, some pretty cool stories with it.
Yes,
Yeah, that's going to be pretty freaking awesome.
we're excited about it.
Yeah, so we decided we're going to release the podcast every Tuesday, barring nothing happens. Try to get it released early in the morning so people can wake up, listen to it on the drive to work.
Maybe listen to it on the way to work.
Yeah.
Or before bed for you night shifters.
Yep. Yeah, we'll try to keep it 30, 45 minutes, sometimes an hour. Sorry if we go a little
Yeah,
long.
we might
but
go a little longer sometimes, depending
Yeah, we
on
get the BS
the
in here
stories
and-
we get into. But
yeah, it's been
for the most part, we'll
yeah.
try and keep it less than an hour. We don't
Do our
want to be
best.
annoyingly too long.
Yeah. Try to keep it short. When we have people on here, I'm sure we'll go a little bit longer.
Yeah. When
But-
we get our guests and stuff like that, and
Yep.
we'll even have friends on here to share their stories. and
Yeah. Yeah.
we all have some pretty good ones.
Yeah. Most we can tell on the podcast.
Most of them.
Yeah. But yeah, email in questions, comments, everything. mostlyhuntingpodcast@yahoo.com and www.snowsindooroutfitters.com.
That's exciting.
Those are both pretty long-winded, but you'll figure it out.
Yeah.
Nevin's got a new hat on. See that hat?
Got the new hat.
That
Snows
is nice.
Indoor Outfitters.
Yep.
It's even in my favorite color scheme too.
I might have got those
On
'cause I knew you
purpose?
liked them so much. Yeah, that's embroidered too. I love a good embroidered hat.
Oh yeah,
Mhm.
yeah.
I mean,
Normally I wasn't
these-
big on brands or anything, but I figured since my buddy owns a bow shop now, I kind of have to support that.
Yeah, yeah. You are always
I'm like-
plain black.
Yeah,
Yeah.
I usually bought these hats right here off Amazon. They're like $7. They're just plain Janes.
Yeah. Not anymore.
I got about 25 of them.
Yeah. Yep. So yeah, I guess we'll sign off here.
Yeah. Thanks for tuning in.
Yeah, if you guys were able to watch it, thank you.
We hope to see you next week.
Yeah. All right. Thanks everybody.
And remember, if Randy likes you, you're good.
You're good. Sorry he's not here. It's
Yeah,
kind of late.
we need to
and-
get Randy here
yeah.
some night.
He gets tired. You guys pet him all day, and he's just whooped at the end of the day.
I don't blame him.
Yeah.
I get pretty tired.
All them belly rubs. I get that many belly rubs. I'd be tired too.
Yeah, me too.
Yeah. But, all right. Thanks, guys.
Yep.
We'll see you later.
Thanks.